The car's on fire, and there's no driver at the wheel. And the sewers are all muddied with 1,000 lonely suicides. And a dark wind blows. The government is corrupt. And we're on so many drugs with the radio on and the curtains drawn. We're trapped in the belly of this horrible machine. And the machine is bleeding to death. The sun has fallen down. And the billboards are all leering. And the flags are all dead at the top of their poles.
Machine lies yet where we talk about how the machine lies beyond the machine that lies.
Yeah, obviously Kant was like an occultist, you know. He was into Swedenborg, you know.
Okay, yeah.
And then he had this interesting relation with I don't know if you've ever well obviously you've probably at least read parts of a Critique of Pure Reason. Have you not, Dr. Skrbina?
Yeah, just parts of it, yeah.
Yeah, same here. I have an abridged version. I don't find the strength to read the entire thing. And
no, it's pretty taxing. It's tough to read that thing. So.
Yeah, and I think some of what he says is pure nonsense. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I think a lot of it's very kind of well, it's heavily dualistic. I think that would be my first objection to it. Is that
Okay.
is that Spinoza kind of got rid of the dualistic approach, but then Kant kind of brings it back. But yeah, his like kind of like praise of like Locke and like Hume in the beginning of Critique of Pure Reason, I thought that was rather strange. It's almost like he's bringing back empiricism or something like that, and like a weird take on it. And then he's over here writing a letter talking about Benjamin Franklin as the new Prometheus, and it's like, just what are these guys, into? I think it's almost like the democratic movement, or like secular humanism, was almost roundly pushed by like the philosophers. Like almost the only one that was against it was like Rousseau. And yeah. But here's a friendly face here, if I could find where the hell did I put this? Oh, can you not share a screen that's incognito here, or how does that exactly work? Oh no, here it is. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah. Look at this woman, and I have not been able to find a favorable photograph of her. I think her eyes just always look that black. I mean, this is just really. This is really quite odd, that these look like fake eyes. They look very soulless, and
could be. Maybe she's a robot. I don't know. Barbara Marx Hubbard, I never even heard of her.
Oh my God, Dr. Skrbina, this is like your worst enemy right here. This is like transhumanist #1.
Really?
And she ran with Vice President Henry A. Wallace, who was FDR's vice president.
No.
Yeah. They started their own party called the Progressive Party, or the Progressivist Party. And she gave one of the most evil declarations known to man. If you look up her speech for the Progressive Party when she was running for vice president of Henry A. Wallace, who was then running vice president. And her speech is completely horrifying, yeah, and she just has these soulless, beady little eyes, and she's like, completely evil. And this is one of her quotes. To give you a sample, this is one of her quotes.
Yeah, like
one of her most famous quotes. She says, "1/4 of humanity must be eliminated from the social body." I guess she knows who should be in charge of that one, or she wouldn't be making statements like that. We are in charge of God's selection. Oh, so it's us. We're all in charge. Process for the planet Earth. He selects, we destroy. Wow. We are the riders of the pale horse, death. There's a fun time quote for everyone, for the whole family,
All righty.
Eugenesis,
Yeah.
I forgot where I saw Henry A. Wallace explaining the Great Seal, to FDR, That's a real amazing quote. Have you ever read that quote, Dr. Skrbina?
No, I don't think I have.
Oh my God. Yeah, people don't know why that pyramid is on there with the eye on top of the pyramid.
Yeah, the pyramid, the eye,
Yeah, everybody's always wondering just how that came about, and it actually came about during the during the administration of FDR, one of the most evil presidents in history. I think there was 2 times when the American Constitution, they just totally wiped their ass with it. and that was after Lincoln and then after FDR. You know, after,
Right,
after,
the two worst presidents in history. Lincoln
I
and
think
FDR.
I think the two most anti-American presidents in history. Because they destroyed the republic. They destroyed any semblance of republicanism left in our, in this, and made it a complete federal union.
Sure.
And Lincoln really destroyed the country by building that transatlantic railroad system,
Yeah.
or the transcontinental railroad.
Transcontinental, right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this right here. Yeah, look, look at this. This is from his own thing, He says Roosevelt, as he looked at the color of the reproduction of the seal, was first struck with the representation of the all-seeing eye. A Masonic representation of the great architect of the universe. Okay.
Yeah.
Next, he was impressed with the great idea of the foundation for the new order of the ages had been laid in 1776, but it would be completed only under the eye of the great architect. Roosevelt, like myself, was a 32nd degree Mason. So yeah, he just says all this. He's out with it. Interesting. People don't know about how that got up there, huh? That great seal at the back of the dollar. That these people are part of clubs that you've never even heard of. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, that's right. Interesting.
And so was Churchill. That's why they decided to gang up on, who, right? Because he's part of a breakaway sect of the same organization.
They ganged up on Hitler.
Yeah. Yeah, they ganged up on Hitler because he's trying to make a breakaway sect of the Illuminati. Or whatever.
At least he wasn't a Freemason.
Yeah. Well, the breakaway sect had to do with this guy. Well, he might as well be a Freemason because what Aleister Crowley said, Dr. Skrbina? He said before Hitler was, I am. Isn't that interesting?
Wait a minute, that sounds like Jesus.
Yeah, that's a direct quote from Aleister Crowley. Yeah. Yeah, he said, before Hitler was, I am.
That's a good one.
And he's not the only one who took credit for Hitler. Dietrich Eckart said that that Hitler danced to the music that he composed there,
Yeah, Eckart was, he was a precursor to Hitler. That's right.
Precursor to Hitler, yeah.
Yeah.
And this guy was a precursor to Henry A. Wallace, and the Vice President of the United States. He wrote him letters and referred to him as Dear Guru. And the press got wind of it, and it ended his presidential run.
Really?
Yeah, prematurely ended his presidential run when he referred to Nicholas Roerich as Dear Guru. And this guy was a student of Gurdjieff.
Gurdjieff.
Yeah, G.I. Gurdjieff.
Yeah, you gotta love that.
dear listener. Welcome to The Machine Lies, where we talk about the lies of the machine on the machine that lies. We're here to discuss the subversive role of philosophers in history, and we'll be presenting many resources that deal with this issue. And properly speaking, the influence of philosophers has been largely seen as benign. They've been seen as, people who are trying to bring about the Enlightenment, trying to bring about the progress of humanity. But these very concepts of enlightenment and progress of humanity come from sources that originally sought to subvert the religious outlook of people in the world. And we're going to get into the founders of political theory. And starting off with the thinker Thomas Hobbes, who in one sense stood on the right side of history because he protested against the Cromwell protectorate in England there that was possibly solely responsible for the expansion of Britain into an empire and into its colonial stage. But before that, Hobbes promoted a sort of monarchy that also promoted a government by consent, and in some sense he's seen as an originator of the concept. And in his chapter in his book called Leviathan on the Commonwealth, he refers to the Leviathan, which is a beast mentioned in the Bible which encircles the throne of God. There's, of course, a beast of the land and a beast of the sea. One is said to be the beast of the sea is said to be one that controls international trade. And the beast of the land is the one that controls labor and productivity. But both are essentially aspects of human ingenuity which come to enslave mankind in a way that is a sort of monster versus maker, a sort of sorcerer's apprentice, so to speak, method of somebody who creates a system outside of himself to speak for himself, and then ends up falling prey to the same system. And this is what happens when man creates the machine that speaks for man. And this is the birth of empiricism, especially British empiricism, starting with Thomas Hobbes, who used this biblical terminology. He said the Leviathan is the collective of the common man, and that he would be a mortal god among men. And this is a highly strange terminology for somebody who's trying to employ an atheistic or a secular framework. But a little later, we find that this religious framework doesn't seem to become eclipsed by the secular foundation, but the philosophers continue to use religious terminology, as do political theorists. And it's clear that some of this terminology is coming from the occult, because Hobbes was a friend of Spinoza. He was a friend of other people who espoused sort of concepts that were foreign to religious concepts. And ultimately, Hobbes was a great promoter of science and technology and humanism. Ultimately, the philosopher Locke, who would directly, in some sense, refer to Locke's Leviathan, to Hobbes' Leviathan, in his two treatises of government, basically employed a similar terminology. He says in section 42 that of the second treatise, that the prince who that the wise prince who enlarges the estate of his neighbors is sort of like a mortal god among men. And this is quite strange for them to use this, continue to use this type of terminology, especially in the goal of providing a secular framework of a machine that speaks for man in the form of a commonwealth or a mechanism for human relations that's centered around their political theory and their views on man in the state of nature. Why employ this religious terminology? And then Locke, who we see colluded with students of Jacob Boehme, like Lady Conway and Henry Moore and Benjamin Furley, in a group called the Lantern, he was avidly a member of secret societies. He studied alchemy, and he also talked to Newton on the subject, Isaac Newton, and his view of nature being a secondary category to the laws of nature that seem to organize the properties of nature. They seem to separate these two in a dualistic way, and put nature in a secondary category. And one of the ways that Locke did this was in section 42 of the second treatise, which I just mentioned. Is he says that nature which does not apply labor to it is indeed waste. So any form of nature that is doing what it needs to do on its own is actually just waste until human labor is applied to it to maximize its value. And this seems like a highly paradoxical view, because it seems that the primary value of whatever's created by nature or created through nature is in the nature itself, is in not despoiling the resources of the land, which provide the necessary material in order to construct any sort of labor or human organization. That it's the base organization of nature itself, or the state of nature itself, that provides the basis for human relations in the first place. So that view seems to be strange. But see, Locke greatly influenced the founding fathers of the American Constitution. As we see, Jefferson declared that in the Declaration of Independence that that according to nature's God, he begins the Declaration of Independence by referring to nature's God. And of course, this is not the God of the Old Testament, but it's a deistic concept. And those people who believe that this country was founded through religion, I mean, it was founded in one sense on the philosophy of John Locke, who created the terminology of life, liberty, and the pursuit of property, which they changed to which Jefferson changed to the pursuit of happiness. And you could see there's a direct influence from Locke to Jefferson. And then on top of that, there seems to be a influence on both men from a sort of deistic standpoint, not one oriented in the religion of the times, yet they referred to religious terminology. For example, in the whole first treatise of government, Locke seems to be doing away with the notion of patriarchy or family relations that are based on the father being the head of the household. And he basically refers to the father as no more than a sperm donor in terms of the what is added to the life of the child, because as soon as the child is able to own his own property, he is not under the tutelage of his father anymore. But we know that instead of marriage being this transfer of relations, where the man gets to become the ruler of his own household through marriage. Locke sort of does away with this, but by doing away with Filmer's notion of patriarchy, which he argues against, and so he seemed to have subverted religion in this major way, and subverted the political to push a political agenda, and this is because it was the dominant form of control at the time. So they had to supplant science and humanism and the secular project, which the main project of the secular world is the state itself, bolstering the power of the state. And you see this in any expression of political theory that we just mentioned. It's to create a system of laws that functions outside of human relations, so it can keep track of human relations, and it could and all human relations can be subjugated to that law. That this is the proper understanding of where the foundation of modern political theory comes from. And we could look at somebody like Bacon, who Locke and Bacon both funded colonies in America, and Locke even drew up plans for slave plantations, how slave plantations were set to be organized in a sort of a Hindu caste system, with the indentured servants in the middle, the slaves on the bottom, and the landowners on the top. Controlling the whole heap and pile of humans. And this seemed to be a capitalist slave labor scheme that was at the time promoted by John Locke and others. But also we see in the writings of Bacon a great promotion of science and technology through the New Atlantis, where he predicted machines that could travel underwater and through the air, securing the means of international trade on an island that was across the Atlantic, that was governed by what he called philosopher scientists. And this seems to be a highly totalitarian sort of scheme, as Bacon can be seen as the first technocrat in a way. And we see how Locke's ideas fit quite nicely into that. One man who seemed to champion both the occult the way Bacon did, and also the various schemes of the capitalist schemes of Locke and others, was Benjamin Franklin, who Kant referred to as the new Prometheus, and he writes to his mother about his affiliation with the Freemasons and how they're just a benign group. And of course, Franklin would go. Franklin was a highly atheistic thinker who would distribute pamphlets pretending to be a pious or religious person, calling himself Poor Richard among other names, and going by many pseudonyms, and distributing sort of religious pamphlets that would talk about the value of work and independence and gaining your own wealth and all of these as promote them as sort of puritanical or religious or Protestant values, and we see that in Thessalonians. There's of the writings of St. Paul. We see him talking about living quietly and working with one's hands and minding one's own business, and this seems to have been subverted by Franklin and others into an ethic of work that seems to have been overlooked. Because these are seen as atheistic thinkers or humanistic thinkers or thinkers of the Enlightenment. Kant, who promoted Locke and Franklin and thinkers like that, or Franklin himself, who promoted these wayward religious concepts and is referred to by Kant as the new Prometheus, in a sense. And in this way, it seems like he's they're all drawing on occult concepts in order to bring this thing about, and these things are these are not sincere attempts at religious thought, but they're attempts to subvert the existing mode of the day, the mass mind, into a political project. And we see this again and again in other ways. For example, Kant was influenced by Swedenborg, and so were many of the thinkers of the Romantic era, such as William Blake and many others. And these really this kind of battle between the secular notions and the occult notions crystallizes in a battle between scientism and spiritualism in the 1800s, which was alive in America, which can be seen in the writings of William James, who quoted Vivekananda and Henry David Thoreau and others who quoted things about the Gita and other things, and they were avid readers of world religious texts because the predominance of secular values seems to come with the arrival of these foreign thought systems, and also with this sort of religious subversion. And we see this with the thinker Bentham and the thinker Hume, who were spies during the French Revolution. And the philosopher Rousseau even talks about in his trip to England that Hume was opening up his mail and reading it, and also distributing false information to the local newspapers, and constantly trying to derail him. And he was suspicious of Hume's efforts against him, and also of the Enlightenment thinkers like Voltaire and Diderot, with whom he did not have a comfortable relationship, and who accused him of terroristic activities, but also had him put in such a position where he had to flee his home. But we see that in some sense these Enlightenment values are then covered up, and then Rousseau is the one blamed for the ideas of the French Revolution, even though he was the one who challenged the Enlightenment thinkers at the time. Then we see that that Bentham is continuing on the same tradition of radical empiricism and utilitarianism, with Locke and all of these other thinkers, Hume especially, And it seems that Bentham wanted to devise a labor scheme, which is very famous now, called the Panopticon, which is a slave labor scheme in which he said that even the children's playground equipment would be used as an electrical source, where even the children were like hamsters in a wheel that were being watched on all sides, and their playtime was being used to maximize the energy resources of the Panopticon. And Bentham wanted to devise such a labor scheme in which he himself wanted to be the jailer. So we see the fascistic attitude of these people, and they promoted things like pederasty and other things. And it seems like these ideas don't seem to stem from religious values, but ideas that defend things like usury and pederasty are meant to sort of subvert the religious mood of the day. And we see in the line of thinkers that Bentham came down to influence. There was thinkers like John Stuart Mill and Bertrand Russell, who in his scientific outlook says that society should be ran by a technocratic elite. We have the same idea from Bacon about the new Atlantis. Of course, the terminology of Atlantis is taken from the Critias of Plato, which is only available as a fragment, and is one of the more mysterious writings of Plato that talks about a technological utopia, which he referred to as Atlantis, that did battle with the Proto-Athenians. Of course, we have the development of a empirical tradition on the one end that leads to the logic of Russell, the symbolic logic of Russell, the cold, calculated, and mathematical forms of logic. And then we have on the other end a continental tradition that seems to stem from Kant as well, going in a different direction, where Hegel used the Kantian framework, the dualistic framework of Kant, to create his dialectical framework that seems to dwell on the Kantian notions of world peace, because Kant seemed to promote utopian visions of world peace, and Hegel seems to have drew from this to say that there was going to be constant progression in history through the dialectic. And this was seen in the apotheosis of the state. He saw Napoleon as the world spirit on horseback. And he saw the French Revolution as a premier time in history that things would change. And of course, another thinker that was influenced by Hegel that was around during the French Revolution was Karl Marx. And Marx was not only related to the Rothschilds, especially Lionel de Rothschild, who was the MP of Britain when Marx was composing his work, Das Kapital. But this was also noticed by Bakunin, who said that the world the world's wealth will be controlled by two forces, Marx on the one end and Rothschild on the other. And this was a shocking prediction that he made, that socialism and a sort of utopian vision of wealth was sort of on the horizon in political thought. And we see that in one sense the postmodernists grew from a cycle of thought that dwelled on Hegel and Marx, but also the psychology of people like Freud, where they took the kind of view of metaphysics and they used via existentialism to go into a more personal outlook. And this personal outlook seemed to have been mediated through science and ended up as using Freudian psychology, the matrix of Freudian psychology, which we know that governs the American matrix as well, as the grandson of Freud. I'm sorry, the nephew of Freud was a founder of public relations and propaganda in the U.S., whose name is Edward Bernays. And this, on the one sense, was a outgrowth of thinkers from the Vienna Circle who promoted concepts such as the open society, like Karl Popper and others. But through the Vienna Circle, we have the foundation of things like the Frankfurt School, but also we have the foundation of things like cybernetics. And cybernetics actually comes from the philosophy of Bertrand Russell and Alfred North Whitehead, who combined math and logic into a language that could be used as the basis for computer programming. And so we have the perfect merger of science and the state. But this experiment, as we saw, began with British empiricism, flowed through the American Revolution, was brought forward through the thought of the French Revolution, and was finally calcified in the thoughts of the Vienna Circle and the outgrowths there of Russell and Wittgenstein, who was finally somebody who was an both engineer and philosopher. He had a foot in both worlds, in the world of technology and in the world of philosophy. So we see that finally we have a monster like Wittgenstein emerging from all of this. And what did Wittgenstein think? Wittgenstein and Russell had many conversations about how logic had driven them insane, had driven them mad. And these are people who thought that the medical system and the system of the state should be combined. Well, we are here, and we are facing many situations of tyranny where this is the case. Just the other day, our art director of our show, Abby, was taken away by the police when she was expressing. She had a nervous breakdown and was screaming, and we tried to get her home, but the police had taken her away to lockdown in a psych ward. And indeed, even though she has been living at our residence for a year, we're the only family she has, and there's no way for her to reach out or contact anybody, the state would not inform the family of her whereabouts. This is including the Officer McCammon, who took her there, Officer Barnes, who was responsible for putting her in lockdown in a mental facility, the nurse Denise, who did not allow her to contact her family, and all of the medical system that will not even inform us of their whereabouts, the whereabouts of a missing person that was taken in by the state. So we see the function of the beast system is to rip families apart. And this is a sad reality that we're living under, that we're living under a system of not only police tyranny, but medical tyranny, where medical laws are being enforced not only by the police, but by doctors. So from now on, we not only say fuck the police, but we say fuck the doctors and the medical system and the beast system 666 that we have just so carefully tried to outline for you, my friends. And you should not fall prey to imitations like those of the Anti-Tech Collective or others who seem to copy everything we do, even though they learned it from us. We live in a world where we are basically, our friends have turned to rivals, and we are surrounded by the enemy. It's time to wake up, my friends, and I hope you can see through the lies, my friends, and may God keep you safe. My lordy, lordy, lord, Dr. Skrbina. This is a filthy, filthy organization full of slimy eels, right? Gregory Bateson is in this organization. That guy started
Bateson.
like the C.
Wait,
Yeah, that guy's.
yeah, we like Bateson. He's a good guy, right? We use him in our class.
I don't like Bateson.
You don't like him? Ah, he's okay. He's got some good ideas.
I don't like Bateson because I mean I quote him extensively because of that ecology of mind stuff. Obviously,
yeah.
There's some I mean I couldn't believe that that piece. I quoted it on my Twitter page as well, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just extremely shocking, the level of precision to some of his ideas. Let me see if I could look this up real quick. Huh. Yeah, I suppose I'll find it for. Oh, here it is. The elementary cybernetic system with its messages is in circuit is in fact the simplest unit of mind.
Yeah, that's the quote that I use. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. And the transform of a difference traveling in a circuit is the elementary idea. More complicated systems are perhaps more worthy to be called mental systems. Good Lord. Yeah, that says it all right there, you know.
Sure.
I really appreciate that quote by him. But I don't appreciate his MK Ultra experiments and you know, those types of
Oh, right.
and the weaponized anthropology, you know, that he used with the OSS, you know.
Yeah.
That this guy is part of the precursor to the CIA, you know.
Yeah, the CIA. All right. Sure.
So he's definitely a glow in the dark spy guy, you know. You know, unfortunately, I don't know I don't know why the Wikipedia for this thing is not even coming up anymore. Maybe they took it off Wikipedia.
Linda's Farm is not on Wikipedia?
It's just like it's like very oh no yeah, because I'm trying to find the Linden's Farm Association.
Ah, there it is.
Yeah, Linden's Farm. The city is there, and they have tons of things talking about the city, but I had to type in this specific number of things just to get there. Oh my God! Yesterday I was trying to find this lecture on British Israelism.
Yeah.
And they had tons of videos promoting British Israelism before I could find this video that was a critique of it.
Really?
Yeah, it's like, you know, the shadow banning is so heavy, you know.
Yeah.
And I typed in British Israelism William Cooper, like the guy who's on the thing, and you have to scroll down like 20 pages just to get to a video where William Cooper is saying anything, even though I put his name in the search.
Yeah.
It's like incredible, you know. Oh, this guy, look at this guy. Maurice Strong. That's a bad guy. That's a bad guy. That's a bad guy. Yeah.
Who else going down the list there?
Oh, this list isn't it? Ralph Abraham.
All right, David Abraham.
This guy's a joke.
Yeah. There's
Bateson. This guy's a joke. Joan Halifax Roshi. I forget who she's. Wasn't she married to somebody? She was married to. I believe she was married to Stanislav Grof.
That's what it said there. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Did say that. Yeah. She was married to Stanislav Grof, who was also a Sandoz lab experiment, you know,
right.
guy there, and also into the Jungian stuff. All these guys are into Jungian stuff. James Lovelock.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, he's a bad guy because he's part of the Linden's Farm Association.
Maybe he's just keeping an eye on him. Maybe.
Yeah.
Who else? Stuart Kaufman. Yeah, I know him. Pagels.
Michael Murphy. This guy's evil as hell.
Esalen. Yeah.
Esalen Institute.
Esalen Institute. Yeah.
Human Potential Movement.
Yeah.
All those guys work for the CIA. Timothy Leary works for the CIA, who's part of the Esalen Institute. So,
Yeah.
Timothy Leary. Over here they have E.F. Schumacher. We like him. I like him, but I don't know what the hell he's doing being part of the Linden's Foreign Association.
Well, there's a bunch of dead people there too, so they're not really doing anything. Schumacher died 20 years ago. I don't know about the other guy. Solari's dead. I don't know who else is gone, but
well, here she is, Elaine Pagels.
Yeah.
Elaine Pagels.
Yeah.
Look at this. They have all these really strange figures. This guy's not a Sufi.
There you go. So you got a real Muslim in there.
No, that guy's not a real Muslim. Yeah, I disavow this type of thing.
We disavow him, yeah.
Yeah, I just disavow anybody calling themselves a Sufi. They have to be really critically looked at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sufi is a broad denomination, including Sunnis and Shias and all sorts of things. All sorts of mystical practices, and they believe in purification of the heart, and they do all sorts of weird, color meditation and all sorts of scam type stuff. Anybody calling themselves a Sufi is trying to move Islam to the center of left. That's usually what it is. Islam is too radical, too conservative.
Yeah.
This is the guy she mentions in her book that she says he's like some kind of this guy's obviously a Jew, but he's now
Stendhal Rast.
Yeah, these guys are all perennial philosophers pretending to be part of some religious tradition or another.
You're right. A lot of them, and the Buddhists are Jews too, and they just like convert or they just change their name or some stupid thing.
Yeah, that's all fake. Yeah, that's gotta be. How is that not fake as hell? People should call them out on that and say this is a 1,000-year-old tradition, and unless your teacher was taught by 10 other guys in the same tradition, you're not a legit teacher of this tradition.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how we do business around here. And
you could put something in your book on all the fake prophets or religious theologians out there.
Oh, I have it. But first you got to start with these guys promoting them. Elaine Pagels.
Yeah.
These guys promoting these fake theologians and these perennial philosophers and saying that
sure,
all these things are legit. And that seems to be the whole project here. If you look at this, the planetization of the esoteric. You got to be kidding me! Like, just what kind of a goal is that?
What does that mean? I don't even know what that means.
The realization of inner harmony of all the great universal religions.
Oh, there you go. Universal religion. Yeah.
They openly admit here at the Linden's Foreign Institute, they want to create a one world religion. So anybody who's so all of these names, they read this mission statement and they didn't find any problems with it. And that is just shocking to me, that people who are on the secular science and secular humanism, that they're openly claiming to be that and claiming to be atheists and stuff like that, that they would have this alternative agenda to unite all the world religions, which is kind of very underhanded. And nobody even knows they're part of organizations like this,
Yeah.
I deal with this guy, Tilliard Desjardins. Have you ever heard of this guy, Dr. Skrbina? This guy's a clown.
Of course.
This guy is a clown, yeah. Yeah, that is... why not combine any other two concepts that don't make sense and you get this guy, you know what I mean? I mean, up is down and down is up, I guess, this teleology, this teleology of Aristotle is really perplexing. It's actually like you got to go backwards to go forwards in this game, and this is just really, you're pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps. It's metaphysical straitjacket of Aristotle, and they're trying to move past. With Alfred North Whitehead. Okay. Now we're in even more problems and troubles. I mean, Whitehead comes with his own bag of tricks, process theology, and
Sure.
what have you. That is just it's secular dispensationalism. This is all the hell that is.
Yeah.
And Marx believed in these things too. That's why the League of the Just was they're trying to make religion secular. The goal of religion, keep the goal of religion, but make it a secular project.
Right.
This thing always gets me. How he says. It says their stated goal. League of the Just here. It says. Their stated goal, the establishment of the kingdom of God on earth. Great. Based on the ideals of love of one's neighbor, equality, and justice. This was also referred to by the League as the New Jerusalem. The New Jerusalem. That term is taken right out of Swedenborg. The Swedenborgian Kantian,
Yeah.
And Another problem with Kant, the whole engine Kant is the whole engine for Hegelian philosophy. So you can't even get to the nonsense of Hegel without getting to Kant first.
Right.
So if you dismantle Kant, you could pull the rug out from under Hegel, which is what I seek to do,
Sure.
Because why not?
This is my rifle. There are many like it, but this one is mine. My rifle is my best friend. It is my life. I must master it as I must master my life. Without me, my rifle is useless. Without my rifle, I am useless.
For the very elements of the new silent weapon technology were as accessible for a public utopia as they were for providing a private utopia. The issue of primary concern, that of dominance, revolved around the subject of the energy sciences. You see, folks, energy is recognized as the key to all activity on Earth. Natural science is the study of the sources and control of natural energy. And social science, theoretically expressed as economics, is the study of the sources and control of social energy, or society as a whole. Both, of course, are bookkeeping systems, mathematics. Therefore, mathematics is the primary energy science, and the bookkeeper can be king if the public can be kept ignorant of the methodology of the bookkeeping. You see, folks, all science is merely a means to an end. The means is knowledge. The end is control.
Yeah, the first Stuart king of England is King James. And so King James basically was a Masonic king, and his daughter then is arranged to be married to a German prince called Frederick V of Palatinate. And that becomes the key central crucible, the key event that gives rise to the Rosicrucian movement, which is an alchemical hermetic movement. So this marriage, their marriage of King James's daughter and Frederick V, is called an alchemical wedding. And what happens is that their grandchildren then become kings. I mean, what happens in between is that King James basically succeeds Elizabeth I, and she runs an occult reign, which is headed by John Dee, the sorcerer. John Dee and Francis Bacon are the two sources of the Rosicrucian teachings. She is succeeded by King James. King James is succeeded by Charles I. Charles I is executed by Oliver Cromwell, who basically succeeds to power for a short period. Cromwell was surrounded by Rosicrucian. His movement was a Rosicrucian movement, and they were in contact with the chief rabbi of Amsterdam. His name is Manasseh ben Israel. So all the leading Rosicrucians were in the circle of Manasseh ben Israel, and they were working together to petition Cromwell to allow the return of the Jews to England.
Tonight, your pukes will sleep with your rifles. You're married to this piece, this weapon of iron and wood, and you will be faithful.
This is my rifle. There are many like it, but this one is mine. My rifle is my best friend. It is my life. I must master it as I must master my life. Without being my rifle is useless.
Listen to this black visionary, bringing war like a revolutionary, constructing daily poetry of murderous melodies. So prepare for death be your penalty. Now you're a mere memory of bloody victory, soldier driven mad by centuries of lies and trickery. They're going to kill us free, putting devils out their misery. Hearing scream sounds of agony, my hostility takes over me. Mine is richer through the cracks of insanity. Down the hallowed halls of hell, walking the trail of tears with no fears, giving them bosses cold stares. Cause I know they fakes and stakes and stabbed in the back with poisonous tact. For wicked acts they get subtracted.
My rifle and myself are defenders of my country. We are my rifle and myself are defenders of my country. We are the masters of our enemies. We are the saviors of my life.
I like it. I weld a solid weapon for the squad war that's in store. My physical's on a world tour. My brain is waging war in the urban. Cinder blocks stacked like castles. They call them project housing, arousing anger. Divine rules being distributed. New faces prohibited. In this wild life I'm living in is a new millennium. Got my adrenaline roaring like an engine. Camouflage ninjas avenging.
My rifle and myself are defenders of my country. We are the masters of our enemy. We are the saviors of my life. So be it, until there is no enemy, but peace.
My thoughts travel far beyond the galaxies. Ways hard to shooting stars, deadly balls before the cause. Wildcat, razor clothes, dicing up the innocent. The 5% attribute, world guard law. Fuck my government. I design military warheads. With infrared, the got them slit. Oh shit, here come the feds. Don't movie and dead. Niggas fled like fugitives. Considered on the dangerous. Right niggas don't pertain to this. Killer army breath for this. Bullshit and ignorance. Ask to overtake the sun. Multiply, deaf and dumb. Victims of illusions. To understand confusion. I let my thoughts born the poetry, show and prove it. The we be the chosen on the uprise. Any vibes, let's realize. The job for these bad guys with the snake eyes. The poisonous films called white lie. Kill the army on a return like the Jedi. What? Every day I'll be your real business. Word up. Desert commandos. Taking the war.